Welcome back to the Command Stack. Hi, I am John. Who else do we have with us today?
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Ryan.
Ken is off busy planning an invasion with the Ewoks, so he will return to us hopefully next time. So, we started this idea that Ryan had about doing mini podcasts. Today it's going to be a full podcast because we have a major event to talk about.
That's right, the Nova Open. That's what today's going to be about. We're going to go over the top 4 lists and some details from it. Before we jump into that, though, quick news. The only news we really have is the clarification about store championships. AMG has said you need 16 players to start the tournament. And to make the invite official, the 16 players need to go to the end. And that is the rule. So if you need... if you're close to that 16, make sure you have somebody on wait list or on standby, and then that'll get the world's ticket validated. And if you are in a tournament or have a winner of the tournament who already has a world's ticket and it has been approved, then the second place player, will get the invite from that event. And that's all. That's the only updates we have. But yeah, so let's get into Nova.
Yeah, so Nova is one of what used to be the 3 big events that would happen in Armada, which would be Nova, Gen Con, and LVO. I always forget which one it is. I think Gen Con was the North American Championship old school title, and then LVO and Nova shared the title of being national, so the United States National Championship. So the United States usually had 2 champions at a time, and then you had 1 North American champion.
And to our European listeners, I think there was a European Championships as well.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, there was regional events that were usually by country, and then there was one big... what's the big one that... the big game expo that happens out there? I think that's where the European National Championship took place.
I don't know.
Starts with an E. So... that's our pop quiz. Comment what convention I'm thinking of. But yeah, so and honestly, what stinks for us is FFG used to do different cards for each of the championships. So there was some cards that were only in the European Championship for years, and then some cards that were only in the North American Championship, which makes it really difficult to track down cards if you're collecting all the promo cards.
Yeah.
As John does, because you have to...
he's got to have them. Pokemon, collect them all.
I don't have any of the new cards from these 2 kits yet. I need to reinstall eBay on my phone, and then I'll start looking for them. But so I'm up to date as of the start of these kits. So I'll need to get to some tournaments and start collecting some cards again.
For sure.
So let's go ahead and talk about Nova. So Nova does their events differently than a lot of places. They'll do 2 days of qualifying for their final day, and they do that so then locals can come in. Usually it's Thursday, and then Friday when the out of towners come in, they can play Friday. And then, don't quote me on this, I believe the top 4-ish from each day automatically progress in, and then the rest qualify based on total points scored between the 2 days. So then you could have an uneven amount from each day being pulled in, depending on what the total score is.
That's correct. And in total at Nova this year, they had 38 total players. Day 1 had 15, and day 2 had 23. 6 players from day 1 went to finals, and 10 players from day 2. So it's a pretty proportional spread of skill. I want to say tournament points, they were both 4-round tournaments, which is a lot. Tournament points to go was a cutoff at 23, and only one person with 23 with the highest MOV was able to go. So it's pretty high bar to cross there to make it to finals. You guys want me to go through some of the data here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So I parsed out some data from the 2 days just to get a look at who made it. I thought it was important to separate them because it changes how the competition is, right? So day 1 was we had 6 Rebel players, 6 Empire players, 2 GAR, and only 1 CIS. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe there was 2 CIS. But on the Admirals, Kraken was 1, Agate was 2, and there was 3 Dodanas, which I thought was really interesting. 2 Mahdi's,
That
3
is weird.
Ramadis. Yeah, 2 Mahdi's, 3 Ramadis, and 1 Sloan, which you'll see drastically changes on day 2. And then there was 2 Anakins, and and then 1 TF 1726. Weird that no Martooks in this event, which I thought was interesting. CIS is struggling competitively lately.
They really are. Yeah.
So and then from there the top 6 went, and it was a mix of I think 2 Rebel players and then Empire and then 1 Anakin. And then on day 2 we had 8 Rebel players, 9 Empire, 3 Gar, and 2 CIS. There was 4 Akbars for Rebel day 2. There was 1 Agate, I think he was a Providence, and then another Agate who was a Farmhawk. Only 1 Farmhawk came. And then there's a Radis and a Commander Sata. And then for Empire, really good spread here. So 4 Sloans, 1 Ozzel, 1 Ramadi, 1 Jerry, 1 Mahdi, and 1 Tarkin came. And then for the Gar, 2 Anakins and a Luminara, and then a Grievous and a TF 1726. So, and then 10 players went from there to the day 2. No CIS made finals, none. And at finals, those are my place here. So we had 3 Rebels make it, 9 Empire, and 4 Gar. The Gar was interesting. 3 Anakins and 1 Luminara. There's a lot of rock, paper, scissors going on here between the Empire and Gar. And then for the Rebels, it was 2 Agate lists and the Kraken. And then 3 Sloans, an Ozzel, 4 Ramadis, and 2 Matis made it. And like I was saying, as far as like rock, paper, scissors thing, Anakin beats pretty much most of what it comes up with, unless it's the ignition with the honors are, and the honors beat Anakin, which is kind of how the results paid out during the end of the day. Rebels were a casualty of this rock, paper thing going on here. And and then from there, the top 4, 3 Empire, and then 1 Anakin made it. And we're going to go through 3 very different Empire lists, and then a very, I would say, standard Anakin loadout here.
Yeah.
All right. But let's get in the list. Or did you guys have anything you want to say about the?
Yeah. So just interesting thoughts. The 3 Dodanas is interesting. I don't think I've seen Dodana come out in force at all recently, and then have like 50% of the Rebels show up with Dodana is kind of a strange thing.
Right. Oh, I think it's important to mention, looking through these names, everybody that was at this event are all good players.
Yeah.
Day 1, day 2. I mean, there's no, what you call it, club seals, like new players or whatever. Everyone who came to this event was a seasoned good player.
Yeah. CIS is really struggling right now. And a lot of that is due to, I believe, Anakin just punches so hard into them, and that their fighters just get completely outplayed by Imperial fighters, Rebel fighters, with the addition of the new fighter that basically can make a transport as powerful as any big carrier. And then you have the Gar with Matchstick, meaning that your bombers can do stuff, and then you can still move Anakin and Ahsoka around to wipe the squadrons out of the CIS. So CIS, I feel, is in a hard spot from what Rapid Reinforcement 2 came out. I think it's interesting that we're seeing a whole bunch of TF 1726 lists, like across the board for CIS. And part of me thinks like that's actually part of the raid shenanigans, right? So you have all these other factions that are specifically like honing in on certain commands, and just by the process of TF being who he is, he automatically can raid them. So like you go up against most other lists, the first thing you can throw on them is an engineering raid token, and then like you have these fleets that are trying to like stay alive with peltas like Anakin, or the Venators that are trying to nav. Like you can try to counter those fleets with the B2s and giving them raid. That's kind of what I'm thinking, why we're seeing TF rise, and then just more black dice. But what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I think statistically, if more CIS lists would have showed up, obviously the outcome would be different. There's not enough data, I think, to give a good answer. I just don't think they're popular enough as a rule of cool faction to really push the numbers out there.
That's fair. I'm just saying because I've seen at other tournaments and local tournaments that TF is the admiral for CIS that's been showing up. It's always in low numbers, but TF is the commander that's been popping up, I think, the most frequently since post rapid reinforcements.
And I think it's exactly what you said. It's the dicing, and it's not hard to add the dice. And when it works, when you run into a player whose ship is not ready to deal with 6 black damage, right? I mean, it swings games really hard.
On top of it being Patriot Fist,
right? But yeah, what do you think, Ryan?
I'm not too sure. I don't think TF is particularly well suited more than the other commanders to kind of deal with the current meta. I just think it might just be what the people like to fly, honestly.
Oh, well, I guess it's called, since they don't have good squadrons, you can build a really synergistic TF list with those 134 points you're not putting in the squadrons, because B2 rockets and all the shenanigans you got to load on each ship to make it work take up that squadron space. So maybe it's just an efficiency of points.
Yeah, and like your basic ships, if you're using like a Munificent, you can put the stapled on Link Turbo Laser Towers and B1. If you need to kill a squadron, it's like 2 dice start, Confire 3, Link Turbo Lasers in, you're up to 5 plus B2, you're up to 6 dice against a single squadron. It's a lot of anti-squadron.
Right.
And then it works in your TF idea already.
I mean, so TF like really sings with like 3-4 hard cells. And I think, the problem is with price, accuracy, giving you guaranteed accuracy, or Anakin, those hard cells can melt pretty quickly. If so, you don't have any defensive tech other than the three unique tokens. So I think that's why I'm not too hot on TF 1726 right now.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Okay, that's a lot of my main observations about the fleet breakups. Everything was kind of like standard except CIS was not there. Also, if you want to move on to the day 2, it seems like if you were a GAR player, almost all the GAR players move forward.
Yes. Except I think one Anakin didn't.
I think one Anakin. So, yep. Okay, so let's start off and go into different fleets. So let me transition over to this so I can see it. Okay, so we have Matt, who took 4th place with his Anakin fleet. And Matt's a very aggressive first player to begin with. So Anakin's kind of like a perfect match, I feel, for him. I think he won Nova 2 years ago, or was that pre-COVID Nova? Everything's kind of blurred together.
It was like 2 Novas.
I think it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID Nova? Yeah. I don't know. Yes, I believe he did. So he won it with the Thrawn all ship, like punch you in the face type list, and he had like
Kuat demo, Architans, Chugazan.
Yeah, the Architen throwing like tons of dice from long range that people didn't really expect it to, because it was just skirting to the side shooting. So he's a very aggro player, so Anakin fits with him well. So he starts off with a Venator 2 class Star Destroyer with Anakin Skywalker. Clone Captain Silver, which gives him some maneuverability control with not regarding what he has as commands. Local fire control, because he's Anakin and wants as much salvo as possible. Flak guns, because that's just stapled onto Anakin so he can throw dice farther. Electronic countermeasures so he can stay alive. Ordnance pod so he can deal with squads. And then DBY 827 heavy turbo lasers. So with Anakin, at medium range, you're throwing a red, a blue, and a black. And then Anakin adds in another dice, a black dice. And then it automatically means that one of those black dice is going to be a double with DBY. So you're throwing a significant amount of damage back at person with each and every salvo, and you're going to be doing a lot of salvos. So that's the first ship. That's the flagship. The second ship is a Venator 1 class Star Destroyer with Captain Zach, or Clone Captain Zach, and he's the one that adds dice to your sides and rear. Local fire control, again, get the salvo because you're Anakin. Intensify firepower, so then your red dice can guarantee not be a blank on top of converting something to a hit crit with the DBYs. Flat guns again, ordnance pods again, DBY again, and then the Tranquility title. The flagship has ECM to help keep it alive. This one I think probably goes out first, and it has Tranquility to keep it alive, and Tranquility can soak up so much damage. Then he has 2 Peltas. The first Pelta is a Pelta class transport frigate with Hondo, projection experts, parts resupply, and reactive gunnery, because more Anakin, better Anakin. And then he has an additional Pelta class transport with projection experts, munition resupply, and reactive gunnery. So these are kind of like your standard support Peltas that they can give out engineering tokens and then just use engineering and heal. So together they can heal 4 shields on a ship each turn. So you're trying to shoot the Anakin Venators down, and then Tranquility is just moving the shields around, and then you're just putting free shields back on it every turn. It's gross. And then if you shoot at the Pelta's going to Anakin you. For objectives, we got Surprise Attack, Asteroid Tactics, and Solar Corona. So, what's your guys' thoughts and feelings about this fleet?
Lean,
It's
mean,
pretty
and
straight.
totally optimized.
I mean, yeah, it's a well-built fleet. There's no mystery, right? Like, you know what it's doing. It's going to fly towards you. It's going to cut you off. It's not going to let you escape. And it's going to put out a ton of damage. But it's, you know what it's doing. There's no, there's no mystery to it at all.
No, it's not.
mean,
Let's see. That ship's going to be either con firing or engineering. The Peltas are 100% just engineering. Like you don't even need to guess what the commands are. You already know what the commands are for the ship.
Right.
It's very straightforward. I also didn't mention it comes in at 388 points, so there's a 12-point bid. Matt loves going first, so he'll probably pick first. So the only way you're going to be looking at his objectives if you bring more than a 12-point bid, or you both have a 12-point bid and you win the roll off. So I don't really think we need to worry about if you were picking objectives what to pick, because I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah. I mean, if I did, it'd be Solar, but
that is correct. Solar is the right answer.
It's always interesting to like looking at how the fleets are built, and there are a lot of thought went into this, where it's like intensify firepower is just like so key here, because you have no dice correction other than your tokens, really. And so that does a lot of work and probably ups your damage output in this fleet just a tremendous amount. And I think that might be, if you have, I don't know, Sunder can't work on intensify firepower, right? Like there's no way to Sunder that away or something.
I don't think so, but let me check.
I don't think you can but
I don't remember if Sunder is, because there's 2 different types of discard cards. Some of them list what you can discard, and some of them I believe list what you can't discard. And I don't remember which.
Yeah. Either way, what surprised me kind of digging into is the Pelta, throwing potentially 3 reds, even, because you want to try to go after the Peltas, but then you're getting 3 reds, and
right. Two red dice on a rear with reactive gunnery on a Pelta. 4 points. 4-point reactive gunnery.
I mean, isn't an exhaust, right? So you can only use it once.
Still.
But you're not dealing with the main threat that's coming down into you.
Right.
Right. You're not getting to the Peltas, right?
No.
Unless you have like rogues or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, the Venators are a nightmare, right? Because guaranteed damage. You got IF, he's going to activate every turn. And then he's got the DBYs. So you're taking 3 no matter what.
Yeah.
Multiple times. Because he's got local fire control.
Yeah, so if you just look at average rolls, let's just say red comes up as blank, 1 black dice comes up as a hit, you set the other one to a double hit, and then the blue's either an accuracy, which isn't bad, or it's a hit. And then you can intensify the red. So you're looking at 4 damage and an accuracy, more than likely, or 5 damage, which is just as good as not having an accuracy on every single salvo. Twice.
And then it's
sorry, Garrett. This is pretty similar to the Tarkin list. That was pretty popular in Europe for a while. It was the two Vens, 2 Peltas. Dealing with Svats, I think, and the 2 repair protection expert Peltas. It's very, very similar, and it's just like Anakin just turbocharged it.
Right. It solves the damage output problem of that fleet completely. And then they add insult to injury. It's got ordnance pods to deal with squads.
Right.
So if like 4 attacks or whatever it is isn't enough, he's going to add another attack on.
Yeah, the ordnance pods can add up quickly, especially if he doesn't have a ship in arc. That's black dice for flak because of flak guns, and then you can ordnance them again afterwards. So it's brutal. So
the weakness though, like you have no deployment, right?
Yeah.
You're deploying first because he's going first, so you know exactly where he's going to be. So just something to consider. But it's not much of an advantage.
Yep. And onagers and Sloan are the kryptonite.
Yes. But
I mean, even then though, like it just depends on how it flies. Like
right.
You do have. I think my big takeaway though is like when you're preparing for a tournament and you're worried about Anakin, I'd look at this list and be like, how do I beat this list? Because I think a lot of people will try flying a version of it. Maybe not exactly it, but like, how do you, if your fleet can't cope with this, maybe adjust your fleet.
Yeah. So I haven't played Anakin very much, but I've discovered that Anakin, I do really, really weird deployments. I don't know if you guys have played much of Anakin, but I've discovered that I'll set up because I think this is like the ideal form of Anakin, like 2 Venators and 2 Peltas. But like I'll set up my 2 Venators like facing like midway in deployment toward each other, so then I can curve them into the middle, and it's like this weird like delay a turn till I get to combat, or I can speed 3 across the board to the corners easier, and then have the Peltas follow, like almost like a train, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I've started to find that's how I like to deploy Anakin compared to just like lining your ships up straight. It's weird, but I feel like I deploy differently when I do Anakin. So like even if you were super out deployed, it wouldn't change how I deployed, because I would still do this very strange like aiming toward the middle but at the corners at the same time type deployment.
Right. And I think to deploy against it, your saving grace is you're probably going to out deploy it, and you set up your ships so you can overwhelm the Ven 1. You have to pour all your firepower into it because it doesn't have
Tranquility though.
Tranquility
is more powerful than
it's
fine.
Not. That's what you got to overwhelm. Fine. Yeah, Tranquility is great, but Ven 1 is what you're gonna be able to overwhelm. And once that's gone, it takes out the IF, and it takes out his second heavy hitter, and then you just conserve points.
If you have a fleet left,
right? I'm not saying it would be ezy. I mean, you still have to play the game, right? But I'm not going to attack Anakin's Ven 2. Right?
I think you have
Anakin.
to go after the Peltas.
You think so?
You
think you attack the Peltas? You can't get to the Peltas. The Peltas are going to be so far back. It's going to be really hard.
The weakest ship is Anakin's.
You think so?
100%. Tranquility.
What you say?
The weakest ship in this fleet is Anakin's ship, even with ECM, because you're going to be dumping all your firepower into it anyway. Tranquility will keep the other thing alive way longer than ECM.
Yeah, but if he wants to use Tranquility, he's not Sovereign.
I mean, I just don't think you bring a fleet. Like, I'm just not bringing a fleet that can't overload Pulse or Boarding Trooper or, Emperor Palpatine away a salvo. I'm just not doing it. I'm not gonna play Anakin, so I'm gonna beat Anakin. And
where's Nim? Give me Nim.
Like, I'll bring my intel officer. Onager. I don't know. Like, so I'm not bringing a fleet that can't cope with Anakin. I mean, so the tactics and stuff, that's fine, but it's in fleet building, I think, is where you beat them.
Yeah.
So Onager, Anakin. That's your choices.
Right.
There's got to be another faction. I think it's Sloane, right? Sloane's the other faction. So you have Onager faction, Sloane faction, and then Anakin.
Emperor Palpatine. It's pretty nasty too.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of this. At all your store championships locally, you're gonna run into this. Someone's gonna take this exact thing, and there's gonna be
Yes.
3 of them. There's gonna be 3 of these lists, copy and paste it. So just
And you're
get
gonna
ready.
have the worst time ever.
There's really nothing to change. Like I'm looking at this list. Like, how would
No,
I
it's-
improve it? I can't. It's
You can't.
literally everything that you need.
It's really well built.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. So congrats to Matt on making a great list. So let's jump over to number 3 now.
All right, I think I was gonna talk about this. This is a really cool list. Something different. No Onager. It is Empire though. Empire and Sloane. So this is Aiden's list. He got 3rd. He did very well. So he's got a Raider 1, and this has got Sloane on it, Boarding Trooper Vader, all right, and Corvus to escape whatever cataclysm or whatever he's got going on. And then he's got 2 Quasars, 2 Quasar 1s. The first Quasar has got Admiral Chernu, flight controllers, boosted comms, reserve hangar deck, and Squall. The second Quasar has got Palpatine, boarding troopers, and pursuant. And then he's got 2 Gazantes, one with Hondo and Comsnet, and the other one's got reserve hangar deck. And then his squadron build is awesome. He's got the infamous Morale Eval, Colonel Jendon, Merrick Steele, Mahler Mythil, Saber Squadron, 2 Lamba shuttles, and then a TIE Interceptor. Super good list. And it's got the tricks we were just talking about. He's got Boarding Trooper Vader and Boarding Troopers. So this is exactly what you need. Quasars are speed 3, so they're speedy. And he's got Emperor Palpatine Officer, again, to help deal with Anakin. And a really good... So obviously Morale Eval is that... I guess everyone hates him, but he's the squadron that every time you move an objective token that's like close to him, he then can move and attack, which can really get out of hand if the tokens are getting all over the place. And his objectives that he brought were minefields, planetary ion cannon, and targeting beacons. So he's going to have tokens out there, but he doesn't have a big bid. He's $3.99, so 1-point bid, so he can escape that. But either way, like his squadron build being pushed by both Quasars is going to be rough to deal with. And he's got reserve hangar deck on 2 to bring back those TIE Interceptors. So they're
Twice.
not essentially he's got 3 TIE Interceptors for the price of 1.
Yeah.
But again, my favorite thing is the Boarding Trooper Quasar, which goes in hot and heavy.
Amazing.
And then the Boarding Trooper Vader to get rid of whatever critical card.
Maybe the
needed.
IF. He could get Boarding Trooper Vader can get rid of IF.
Yeah.
I'd like to know,
right.
I'd like to know how many times he actually used that Vader.
Yeah, well, he said he usually went first.
Which helps.
Yeah.
Which helps with 5 activations to use something. But I kind of wonder if it's just, is that a lifeboat or is that doing damage? Normally in this kind of list, it's a lifeboat. But
right, I would say
I've
so.
never seen one with Vader, so
It's got potential to be used there, right? So
I think it's a deterrent to keep people away from it at the same time.
maybe so.
Very good point. Very good point. He did say he was worried about chewing through 134 squad lists. He said those could really bog him down.
He's worried about that?
I know, that's what I thought too.
I was like, okay,
You have like all of the Sloane superpowered
Yeah.
stuff to kill
yeah,
things
like
with.
I'm like, you're gonna be fine. But obviously he was fine, right? He's got his ticket.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. What do you guys think? It's got all the good stuff. For a squadron fleet.
So have you guys ever played against Morello or played as Morello? Just out of curiosity.
No, I've never seen him on a table. I've only heard the rumors and the stories in the shadows.
Yeah, I've only watched games, but I've never actually played against him.
Okay. I've played with him and against him. I think, obviously, I'm going to make a critique here, but he got 3rd place. I would have brought 3 Lambdas, because then you could maximize Squall. But
Well, he's got 3 lambdas. He's got Jendon.
right, but it's not strategic.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So he probably has Jendon in there instead of the third one, because then he can just superpower who is that Merrick Steele or have Morello go twice, you know. But usually you see it with at least 3 lambdas, so then you can trigger him with just Squall, and then you go into activation, and just without expanded, then you can activate 3 lambdas and then Morello with 1 Quasar. But he doesn't really need to worry about multiple squad activations when you have 2 Quasars. So
Right.
when I saw this list, I'm like, because I just saw just a picture of it, and I'm like, I have to look up what this list is, because who brings 2 Quasars? Like, the only other person I think would be crazy enough to bring 2 Quasars is Paul, and he was running an SSD, and I already knew he was running an SSD instead of like his suicide Quasar at Worlds. I don't know if you guys remember that list.
Yeah.
The boarding trooper Quasar with no squadrons. So I'm like, a double Quasar list. Why is there 2 Quasars? So it's a crazy list. I've never considered running really 2 Quasars in an actual competitive way. So
This would be stressful.
oh yeah, absolutely stressful.
I mean, look, the star is the Emperor Palpatine. Like that's amazing. That's awesome. Like that's the stuff that you just like. Well, that's the stuff that's like theory crafted, right? I mean, like we just like talk about in the forums all the time, and like Paul does it at Worlds or something. But like, just to see it get 3rd place is awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yes, it is. Also, it's with Sloan too, so those tokens are disappearing so fast with boarding trooper and the Emperor. Like, if you run it at an Anakin list, Anakin has to attack it, right? Like,
Right.
even with the Emperor, it's attacking it. That's like all the tokens gone all at once with the Emperor, and then at boarding troopers, Sloan's off all of your tokens.
I really hate with the Morello combo how the Lambda has a blue dice, and so it's like useful for Sloan. I really like if it had a red dice anti-ship or something. I feel like it might help a little bit more, but like it's kind of the weak spot in a lot. Attack the Lambda shuttles or at least when you bring like 4 lambdas or something, you're like, oh, okay, it's not too much ship damage, but nope, they'll do ship damage too.
Right. I think
that is true.
What was I going to say? The name of the list was "I Hate Anakin," so I thought that was a nice touch to the top of this.
Yeah, I don't see this list having trouble with Anakin, because you could just honestly, like, you can suicide the silly Quasar in, and while Anakin is punching you hard, its tokens against like salvos is just fine with the Emperor to get rid of all the tokens.
Right, you just need accuracies, right?
Yeah.
And like just 2 accuracies with boarding troopers or I don't know. I mean,
and it's all blue
you
dice.
may only get like 1 salvo off with Anakin, right?
Yeah.
Like if you get alpha.
Yeah, so like you get 3 blue dice against Anakin. Say you do 3 damage. They have to use their tokens or not use their tokens. They choose to salvo you. After spending all their tokens, then they have to get rid of another token because of the Emperor.
Yep.
And then they salvo you. And then they do the Anakin, meaning they have to spend an additional salvo that hasn't already been spent or Palpatined. And then have to get rid of another thing. So
and this is after they've been attacked by squadrons. And then are probably attacked by squadrons after.
Yeah. Like, you do that first, and then all their tokens are gone, and this is at like medium range, and then you just move in with the other Quasar, all of your squadrons, get rid of all the tokens with Jendon and Merrick to be just gone with all the tokens at that point, and then you just Morello it to death because it has no tokens in the same hull zone. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's weird that we're saying this is awesome and it's Morello fleet. It's just
well, the Morello isn't the focus of the fleet, though, right?
What we're talking about, but Morello is the focus of the fleet. We like the Quasar with boarding troopers because
we like your Quasar. But I mean, it's just as nasty if you take Morale out, right? You put
Yeah.
Howl Runner in, or
How-
it's just it's still nasty, right?
Right.
Whatever
However,
you do.
if he's being first player a lot, there's a chance that Morale is not getting used a ton.
Right, but then he has Jendon and Merrick, and he's still good.
Right. That's what I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Like his optimization morale is not there because he's not always playing second player.
But
True.
it is
That's a good point.
very, very, very rare to be handed 3 cards that don't have tokens in it.
Very true. You're not wrong.
So, like at Worlds, I placed a Morello, and he chose to go first, and then looked at my cards like, perfect. It's got a token in it, and I didn't even think about it because the token goes on the asteroids for it, and then he just pulls the token off and then just moved it right into my fleet and wiped out all my squads. So
Yeah.
Well, going first too, like with this squad ball is nasty, right?
Yeah.
Like
it's still a Sloan squad ball.
Right, and you want to go first. So
yeah. It's a good fleet. So
yeah, congrats. Obviously take targeting beacons,
Yeah.
give those Quasars rerolls. Yeah, there was something else I wanted to say about this fleet, and now I don't remember what it is. It was yeah, the squadrons work well together, and 2 Quasars, you can just push them all the time, and then you can just lifeboat if you want, or you can Vader something if you want.
Yep.
So
All right.
it's
Next.
all good. Let me flip over to it.
All righty then. So I'm going to cover this one. It's another Sloan fleet. It's a Sloaniger. So I think is this Sasha? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, I think so. Sounds right.
Sorry, my apologies if I pronounced that wrong. I got second. It's an Onager test bed with Sloan on it and Governor Price, Ordnance Expert, Engine Techs, and the Red Beam. A Quasar 1 with flight controllers, boosted comms, expanded hangar bay, and Squall. Pretty standard stuff. Gazanti with Comsnet, reserve hangar deck. Another Gazanti, Comsnet, reserve hangar deck. Merrick Steel, Jendon, Howl Runner, Vader, Defender, Saber, and 3 TIE Interceptors. So pretty much a Sloanager, which is really interesting that it came out because I haven't seen Sloanager do that well for a while.
Almost a year.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's something about the current state of the meta, or is this just I mean, it's always been good, right? It's always been hard to beat. And it just kind of disappeared. And maybe that was because of I don't know, Doninger maybe or something. Or the interdictor put, instead, or I don't know.
Well, things really didn't start happening until our last, like the most current Worlds again. So
yeah, but like even watching and following, other tournaments online or something like that, like it had its heyday, right? And I feel like everyone was like really playing Sloanager, and it slowed down. And I never really kind of knew why. But it's back, and it's very powerful.
Yeah. Especially because there was 4 Sloan fleets that made it, and I think the one that we just saw, the Sloan with Morello, was the only normal Sloanager type list, right?
Right.
So, it's really good, and it's really good at killing squadrons. So
really good, yeah. I mean, the flight controller, Howl Runner, Interceptors is it's real tough.
With 2 reserve hangar decks to boot.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And you with this fleet, you have the deployments. You have 4 deployments, and then you also have all your squads. What's different from this fleet than what I think as traditional Sloanager is you don't have the Corvus lifeboat to put out and then keep Sloan safe. So when I've played Sloanager before, I used the lifeboat and I needed it, mainly because people obviously just gun for your Onager full force, and in almost every game the Onager ended up dying that I used to play it with, and it always traded up, so it's fine, and then my fighters finished everything off. But with this, you don't have the lifeboat, so if they're able to get a bead on your Quasar and your Onager, then you're in trouble. But the Onager has engine tech, so it can make a fast getaway if it needs to. So
This is a tough list. I mean, that fighter ball is as nasty as you're going to see.
yeah, with the reserved hangar deck, it's
Oh,
brutal.
it feels terrible just to like, oh, I finally killed an interceptor. I took 3 damage back, probably, with Howl Runner. Oh, it respawned. Great.
Yeah. And then Squall to outmaneuver your squadrons after you've got his squadrons locked down.
I mean, I don't even really know of another squad ball that I would feel good about bringing and being able to take that on.
I think we'll get to that in the next list. So this list came in at $3.99 as well. So we've seen very high bids and very low bids. The difference is the very high bid actually wanted to go first, when most of the time when we see a really high bid, they want to go second so far in this tournament. So let me think. Any other thoughts about this list?
Nope, just good. Congrats again.
Yeah.
This is the first time or at least I've been on the podcast and we've covered it. Price. What's your guys' thoughts so far on Price? Have you used Price? Have you played Price?
I've played it. I don't. It's not like changing my life. I actually fear the intel officer more. It's more like the price is just the damage, which sucks. But the intel officer, I was having more trouble with. Would be able to take out my smalls.
I've played plenty of Price. I think she's really good. I think she's costed well. Like I always feel like, oh, I'd rather a cheaper off. Like I'd rather take Emperor Palpatine instead of her or something. I rarely can find the points for her, I feel like.
So I've played with her a couple times and against her a couple times, and in every single game, she has been amazing from what I've used her as. Let me see if I can find this fleet real fast.
I mean, she's good with Onagers, right? Like,
yeah, it's on an Onager. It's always on an
Yeah.
Onager. But it's always, whenever I've used her, it's one of those, like, I have to do a bunch of math and, like, look at your stuff and look at my stuff. And then usually you can come up with the proper answer if it's an accuracy or it's a double damage, and then it just kills whatever it's shooting at. Every time I've used her, it's been to huge benefit. I did something really, really weird, though, with mine. I put engineering teams on my Onager, and that's the one that it just bumps your engineering value up by 1 for 5 points. And that seems crazy, but hear me out on it. It means that instead of con-firing with this Onager, I just do engineering, which allows me to replace 2 shields, which always then allows me to use Price on every single shot that I use it on, and then regain shields if you're shooting at me. And I feel that having shields to spend with Price is more important than doing a con-fire, because the net gain is more, because it's guaranteed an accuracy or guaranteed a double.
I like that. That's really good.
That's just me theory crafting on it, but that's my opinion since I started using Price. Also, it's really, really awesome to use on an ISD 2 Price. That front shot is just brutal.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, actually. The engineering team thing is really smart.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's top tier. It's just a goofy interaction.
Yeah, still good.
For a card that never... It technically isn't engineering team one of the cards that they put in the new kits? Maybe they're thinking ahead of me.
Maybe.
Maybe they're using the same nonsense I am. So, any other thoughts on the list or Price or Sloniger in general? No. Okay, so let's move on to the first place fleet. This is Nick Latrenta. Nick's a friend of mine. He's a Chicago local. And years ago, when pre-COVID, when we went to Nova, I went with him and we roomed together and stuff and had a good time. That year, he took second at Nova. Talking with him, he's always taken like third or second at major tournaments, and the first place has always eluded him. and he goes to almost all of the major tournaments. I believe he took second or third at Gen Con last year.
Yeah.
He's a really, really, really good player. So congrats to him to win a tournament. This is pretty much the same list that he was playing last year's tournament cycle into Worlds, and he made day 2 and he placed very well just outside of making day 3 at Worlds, but this is the list he's used. So he's very good at it. He's very well practiced. So let's go over it real fast. So he has a Raider 2 with Admiral Ozzel, Iden Versio, weapon battery techs, disposable capacitors, heavy ion emplacements, and the Corvus title. So most people, when they see this, they think it's a lifeboat, but he describes it as it's a missile because it can come in, and with Ozzel, he can keep it speed controlled and out of range, and then suddenly he decaps into you with blue dice, and it's basically a guaranteed crit, and then he heavy ion cannons you, and then he's gone because of Ozzel's speed control. And then he can survive close shots with Iden there, so it's a really good ship. He has 2 Gazantes. One has Hondo. Both of them have CommsNet. And then he has an Onager testbed with Price, Ordnance experts, veteran gunners, orbital particle cannons, and Cataclysm. I've seen him play it without Cataclysm, but with the Hondo edition and Cataclysm, that's how he played it for this tournament. He has an extremely mean squad ball. He has Morna Key, Bosk, which is one of my favorites to play, a standard VT 49 Decimator, Tell, Darth Vader in a TIE Defender, and a fire spray. If you don't have squadrons, this is going to wreck you. He could just leave his fleet on the other side, and all these ships are like basically double dice, most of them bomber, that can just wipe your fleet out. They're just all very
so
powerful.
nasty.
And then on top of that, you have the Onager shooting at you the entire time. So, it's really good. I've played against it. It sucks. So, yep. And then for his objectives, he has surprise attack, planetary ion cannon, and superior position, with a 1-point bid coming in at 399 points. Any thoughts about this fleet?
I mean, the stars, the Raider, and the squad ball,
Yeah.
right? I mean, the squad ball, like each squadron, right, at minimum, the easiest one to kill is generic fire spray, and it's still got 6 hull points, right?
Yes.
Morn's got 8, VT's got 8, Boss has got 7. You don't even want to shoot at him, right?
Yeah,
And then you
supercharged
have-
Bosk.
I mean, this thing is just, you'd pour so much time and effort to kill any of this. And then Tell is there just to be, I mean, he's gonna hold you up for 2 rounds minimum, right? But yeah, I love the way you described the missile Ozzel Raider too, because like he can shoot you, then he flies close, shoots you again without the disposable capacitors, and then just okay, bye. He's gone. He's done.
Have
an
fun
enormous
dealing
amount
with
of
my
damage.
squad ball.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden here comes this absolute train wreck of a, like, each decimator's got 3 anti-ship dice, all blue.
Yep.
It's so cool.
Or Vader. Vader.
Yeah, and Vader. Just
And
add
Vader.
it.
So, and they're all rogue, so he doesn't even need to be close to command them. He can
Yep.
if he wants to, but he doesn't need to. So, and then he has generics in there too. So like what we've seen right now with the way the wheel of Anakin versus Sloane versus Onager rolls, like Sloane doesn't really gain that much benefit against this fleet because some of them are generics. Tell's going to lock you down. Vader is going to be doing Vadery things. And like you strip Morna's token away, cool, she gets it back anyway. And
Right.
It's just cool to see Morna, you know. Morna's, other than Nick, I don't know anyone who really flies her. She's good. She's still good. She's always good. If you can win the squad battle, she will just eliminate your CR90s or whatnot.
right.
And I played Nick at Gen Con with this almost identical fleet, other than price, and I had one of the best games I've ever had. And I can't remember what happened. I think either I won or he won by like 1 MOV, or we tied. I just can't remember. I think we might have tied. But it was a 181 to 180 or something like that. It was a great game. But I'm looking at his round 4, and he played Aiden, which was the 3rd place fleet. And thinking about how that matchup would go, I think the Onager is an important spot because it puts a lot of pressure on the timing engagement. And Aiden doesn't have that with his fleet, right? Aiden doesn't have an Onager. He's got the 5 activations, but the Quasars, and so you can just sit back with his price Onager and potentially nuking a Quasar, at extreme range, and so you're forcing the engagement into unhappy places. And so you wouldn't normally think that squad ball could be like a Sloan squad ball, but when you're having to engage, not necessarily when you want to, it creates problems, right? It disrupts your plan. And I think the Onager is a really important part of that. You can't just sit back and circle the board, right? As those kind of Sloan fleets do.
Yeah, it guns them. Yeah, that game, there's a lot of the games that I would have loved to been able to watch at this event. That one particularly, that's just such a weird matchup with 2 Quasars versus like the fighter ball matchup with Morello in there. I think would have been great to watch. And then like the previous match before that when he placed Derek.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to see that game as well. So he did.
Yeah, because Jason brought Sloaninger too.
Yes, he did. He brought the TIE Defender version of it too, which is also amazing.
Props.
Yeah.
Props for that. Yeah, check out Jason's fleet. It's very cool.
Give me 1 second.
But Nick's fleet's, it's interesting. Nick's, it's a very pricey Corvus. It is a
yeah.
very,
Yeah.
a very pricey.
He's got a
Corvus.
lot of experience flying.
Yes.
Right.
The
timing.
Nick's only loss this entire tournament came in the first day that he played, and it ended up being a mutual tabling. He was playing Paul, and Paul just super Star Destroyer with lots of rerolls and things like that managed to he did like Nick told me he did like a really good like Gergerod turn with it and had the Raider right in its line of sight, and then with Price and dice adding, one shot the Raider off the board.
Wow.
And then like he's like, and then my Onager was sitting in front of a Super Star Destroyer, so I knew that was gonna die. But the fighters and the Onager had chewed up enough of the health that his fighters managed to kill off the Super Star Destroyer right after he got tabled. So
wow.
Mutual tabling. Nick was first player, so Paul ended up winning the mutual taping rules, 0 MOV. So
yeah,
crazy. It's always crazy when that takes place. So I think that's about it. This is another list. So all 3 of these lists that we talked about are like super refined lists.
Yep.
Like the Anakin list, like there's not really much anything I can change or would want to change on it. The Morello list, I don't have enough experience with Morello, but he seems to really know what he's doing with a 2 Quasar. You kind of have to know what you're doing with the 2 Quasar list. Sloniger, that's a mean squad ball, and it's an Onager. It's good. And then this list, every bit of it is refined too. Like all 4 of these lists are super refined competitive lists. So
I think what's interesting. Oh yeah, huge prop. I was gonna say we've returned back to everybody wants to be first place as far as winning.
Yeah, isn't that weird how you're always in that circle, right?
Yep.
I just don't think it went anywhere. I think first player was always good and it was always a good consolation prize. I felt we had a little brain lock with Starhawks, but for a little bit, but we kind of figured that out.
People just didn't want to attack it. I don't know what people wanted to do. I have talking about the Starhawk debate. I've seen the new idea for the Starhawk, instead of taking advanced gunnery, taking station assault, because then they have to come to a certain spot, or you gain 80 points. Isn't necessarily a bad idea. It's a pretty good idea for it. I still don't think that Starhawk is really viable anymore, but that makes it a little bit more viable because you can't just retreat from it and get a 6-5.
Right.
But Mercy Mission really hurts Starhawk as well. But yeah, so
It had its time.
yeah, like a 4-month window.
Well, the game is just so much more lethal now too. Like there's just so much firepower everywhere. Like the Starhawk, just like if you have just one ship, you just dive into it and you just blow it up.
Yeah. I think it's funny at Worlds. One of the Polish guys, he brought the Starhawk, and I'm like, yes, I want to kill a Starhawk because I had a double onager list. And he's like, how? This isn't right. Like, you got to Worlds with the invite because of a Starhawk. Why do you want to kill him? Like, it had its time. It's done. It's time to kill all the Starhawks now. So, yeah, that wraps up that tournament. Big props and congrats to everyone. Good job, Nick. Congrats on the win in the World Invite. All 4 of these players got World Invites. So, looking forward to seeing them playing at Worlds. So the question is out there. Anakin, is he going to continue to propel himself up the podium, or are we going to be just living in a world that everyone brings onagers, or are we going to find a way to counter Anakin and onagers in the same list? I think that's going to be the question that's going to be out there now.
It's tough. So Garrett had brought this up last time outside of our podcast, and he talked about, he listened to the 312 X-Wing podcast, which I think is Chicago, right? 312.
Yeah, that's the area code. Yeah,
isn't that Goose Island, right? So Goose Island does a 312 beer, but on their podcast, one of the developers at AMG went on and was like, we need a year's worth of data. We need to like make any changes, or to like rely on that, which to make it, we don't want to make changes to make changes to the game. And it's like, well, we probably need to try to get ahead of this, like we have a year's worth of data. We need some points changes in Armada. We need to change the onagers. We need to make Anakin a 38-point admiral or something. I don't know. Get rid of the rules changes are probably set in stone.
He's not even the most expensive admiral in his faction.
So it just got me thinking, like, we that is something that we need in the game. Like, I've recently gotten into Warhammer, and 10th edition Warhammer, right? Just came out in like June, and they're already changing stuff. Like they're just changing, like they're changing the rules, they're changing points, and it's just like, oh, that's response. Like they've recognized now they have a lot more data to deal with, than AMG does, but it's
a way bigger team.
Yeah,
sure,
that is also true. Yeah, I saw something crazy the other day because I don't play Warhammer, but I follow it because it's just interesting. But the Eldar currently have like a 70% win rate in their tournaments. 70%.
Yeah.
At least we're not dealing with anything that crazy broken, right? Like,
right, but I mean, yeah, we don't have that much data, but Anakin, who knows? Like maybe he'll get around there. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think Ryan, at the end of the podcast, we do what you've been playing. So do you want to kick that off for us?
Yeah. So what else have you been playing? I'll get started. I bought into Warhammer recently. I finally took the plunge. I just wanted a game that I just wanted good hobby time. And then I wanted a game where I knew was always going to be there. Like I may never so I went to Gen Con, right? And I just got this feeling of like, oh my God, how many board games can come out every year? It's like all these new, and it's like, I'll play the game once or twice and I'll never come back to it or something. I just wanted a game that will never go away. Right. and there's a lot of comfort in that, in like buying in to a game that's never going to go away. And so with with Warhammer, I decided to do it. So I joined the Grey Knight faction, and slowly but surely. And I don't know if I'll play a game until my kids go to college,
Right.
But it's something to follow. So
Yeah. Until they axe your faction. Just kidding.
Grey Knights are pretty central in the
yeah,
storyline, so I
they'll be
think he's
okay.
pretty safe with the Grey Knights.
Myself,
Until 11th edition.
Yeah, I've
they've
been doing
been
nothing.
around since first edition,
I know.
apparently. So.
Yeah. Gareth, how about yourself?
I've been, all my game time has just been Armada, which has been pretty cool. So I don't get to play a ton all the time. So we've been really consistent here locally. So
Yeah.
Other than that, no, just focus on life and work.
Yeah. I haven't played a single game that's not Ion Radio related. So that's really no surprise to anyone. I've been crazy busy. But what I have been doing is I've been enjoying some great sci-fi that's been on for the last couple of months. Watching Strange New Worlds Star Trek. I know we're technically a Star Wars sub, but Strange New Worlds was really good this season. Lower Decks starts the night that we're recording this, so that's the cartoon version, so I'm excited about that. Ahsoka's on, and I've been loving all the episodes so far for that.
Last night's episode, really good.
Yeah, well, all of them have been good. So
yeah.
I'm excited to where that goes. So
we'll have a conversation about that.
We need a whole mini pod just on Ahsoka when it's done properly.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it's one of those dumb things. Like, so my friends were really into anime all the time, and I'm like, whatever. But they made me read and watch One Piece. So I watched the Netflix One Piece adaptation live action. It wasn't that bad. I actually enjoyed watching that. So that's really what I've been doing with my time. No actual games, but watching a lot of shows. So
yeah, when watching Ahsoka, Wheel of Time. I don't know if anyone ever watched that on Amazon. Maybe I'm getting the name wrong.
No, I think that's right. Wheel of Time.
Wheel of Time series, yeah. It's a complete rip off of Lord of the Rings, the worst. But I find it entertaining. It's something else to watch.
Was that based on a book series?
Yeah, I think it's Robert Jordan. I think he wrote the longest books, and it was just real. I got through 7 of the 15 books that were in the Wheel of Time series, and I read 2 of them on my honeymoon. They're just the longest, driest books that are going on. And I just had to put the book down. I couldn't I had to put the series down. I was the whole book is one chase scene.
Jeez. I guess we're going books. If anybody's ever heard of Dungeon Crawler Carl,
no.
I have had a friend recommend this.
It is so good. I think it's around the 6th book. The next book just came out a couple days ago, and I'm just piling through it on Audible. If anybody's looking for it's like Dungeons and Dragons, background is the I think there's a name for it.
But what's isn't there some unique twist to it though?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it to know if there's a twist. All I know is it's a guy, and the Earth is turned into a dungeon basically. So select humans are put through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So,
I've heard really good things about that.
It's incredibly good. It's so good. Even my wife, I had to listen to it. She's like, "Wow, this is really good," and I just listened to all the books. So, it's a pretty big seal of approval there.
Yeah. I guess technically it's a game. I started playing Halo Infinite again, so you guys can join me and be terrible at. Yeah. Terrible.
Nice. Is it good? Is it good? I put a lot of time into it, and then I stopped because all my friends stopped.
I think so. Halo Infinite, if you don't have server crashes, which they've worked out most of those kinks, it's actually a really good shooter Halo game. But
yeah,
they added a couple new pieces of equipment, some maps. They finally hit where this is where it needed to be launched, 2 years ago. But
hit me up. I can boot it back up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing with my time. So I think let's end it now with talking about some upcoming major events, because we looked at the calendar. It is packed for the next like month.
For like just World Open qualifiers. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff going on everywhere. It's overwhelming.
Yeah,
Actually.
so we got. Does anyone have the list? We got.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me here.
Spain is the next one, like next week.
Yeah.
They have the World Qualifier. After that, they have Italy, I think. Or Italy might be October.
Golden State Games is the week after Spain. That's the 23rd and 24th. That's in California. I think they're booked as far as like.
Yeah.
You can check to see if they got any slots left, but I don't think so.
I think
That
they took
event's gonna be
tables from like
huge.
Legion or something.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And then Poland is going to be like the first week of October, October 7th and 8th. And then PAX Unplugged is going to be having a world qualifier as well. That's December 1st through 3rd.
And then we got the St. Laurent Open in Canada. That's October 14th and 15th.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so 4 tickets on the line for all of those, and they will flow down, I think, is our understanding. So
Yep.
I think as they start to, it'll start to get a little bit easier, as people start to go to these tournaments on repeat.
Yeah.
Warzone is going to be a store championship in Houston.
One ticket.
They got that, so there's a ticket out there to if you're in the area, check it out.
Australia, December 2nd to 3rd in Melbourne. Let's Play Games, I think is the event called.
yeah.
In general, check out my map on the Discord, and John pinned it to the Ion Radio Discord. I'm trying to keep up, but the store championships are coming, fast and furious. We're gonna have to put ours out here.
Yeah, as soon as we've been real bad about setting dates for our events. I'm so sorry, everybody.
Time crunch, people. Come on.
I
We
know.
want everyone to get their tickets, so by the time that we have our championships,
It just flows right down to you.
Yeah.
That's the plan. Okay, I see how it is. But like really important, because you need the 16 players to be considered a legitimate event to pass out the ticket. The map that Ryan has set up is really good, because then you can post your event there and like details, and then people that are in the area or other states, people are talking about driving like 2 states over to go to tournaments. People love Armada tournaments. They'll come out. So what's the phrase? If you build it, they'll come. So put your info up there and try to get people to come. I saw earlier today, like someone in Wisconsin, their store doesn't really have players, but they got a kit and they're looking for people. And like people from Indiana are going. Illinois probably will go. It's Wisconsin. It's not that far. And Minnesota will go. Like, you should be able to fill your event, but get the word out there, and get the word out there soon so people can start planning, and especially if they're going to like do a day trip or something to come to it.
Yeah, store champs are one of the best things to come back to Armada. One of the best things to happen to the game in years, and it's a really good event it's this merging of casual competitive play, local play. It's just awesome. So check them out.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else we want to add before we call it a close?
No.
Okay, so if you're watching this, then you can find us on Ion Radio YouTube. If you're listening to it, you're probably listening to on any one of the podcasts. Everywhere that you can find a podcast, you can find us. You have our email. I think it's commandstack@gmail. Is that right?
And I've not checked in a while, so
We could have all this fan mail and you're not even checking it?
Oh my gosh.
So don't contact us on there. Just send us a comment or find us on Discord.
Please leave us reviews, like and subscribe, all the good stuff.
Exactly.
Share us with your Armada friends.
Yeah. We'll be back to cover mini store championships and the major events coming soon. So until next time, I'm John.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Ryan.
And you've been listening to the Command Stack.